particular stock exchange. One of the boards was the main board, which has different regulatory requirements in general. So moving on, we also looked at margins. There are two types of margins: initial as well as maintenance margin. Now let's look at.
It's not audible, sir. One Mr. Manoj and the other one is Mr. Putrajan. If one can be switched off.
I am not Manoj actually. I am only logged in. Record date has the same meaning as that given under Companies Act. It refers to the date when companies usually make an important announcement with respect to closing its register of members. So whenever usually company approves financial statements or declares dividend or declares a bonus issue or any other corporate action, whenever a company does any of this, usually the company will announce to the stock exchange that it is doing a book closure and record date. The record date is actually valid only for 1 day, whereas book closure, on the other hand, is multiple days usually. So the concept is the same for both. This is the day on which, or the multiple days on which, the register of members of the company as well as the share transfer books of the company are closed. Which means if you buy and sell the company shares on these days, you will not be reflected as a member on these days. Once the record date or book closure is over, only then your name will reflect in the register of members. Usually this is done to find out who are those people to whom dividend should be paid, to take a record of the number of people to whom dividend should be paid, or number of people eligible to receive bonus shares, or number of people to whom financial statements copies should be sent. So these are the days on which the books, specifically not books of accounts, but register of members and share transfer books are closed. So in Companies Act, there is one additional rule here apart from sub-regulations. Companies Act says that you can close your books for determining who your shareholders are up to a maximum of 45 days in a year, but at a stretch you can only do 30 days. So to summarize this, book closure therefore would be that period which is more than 1 day, which can extend up to 30 days at a stretch, and which can extend up to a total of 45 days in a year. And these are the days on which two important books of the company are closed. One is your share transfer books, and the other is the register of books. And if it is closed for only 1 day, some companies can accept this data in 1 day itself. Then it is called as record date. And whenever a company has a book closure or record date, it has to intimate the stock exchange in which it is listed. Some companies are listed only on BSE, some companies are listed on both BSE and NSE, so you have to inform both. So apart from this, stock exchange also has two types of deals which usually take place. They are called bulk deal and block deal. Block deals refer to those transactions which are of value of more than 10 crores. Whereas bulk deal are those transactions which are of more than 0.5% of the total equity shares of a particular listed company. Some bulk deals can be block deals. Some block deals can also be bulk deals. There is a overlap here sometimes, depending on the size of the company and the number of equity shares the company has issued. So if you end up buying more than 0.5% of a company's equity shares, so let's take Infosys. Infosys currently is trading at 1403 on BSE. So let's take a round figure of 1400. The company has also issued total 450 crore shares. The total share capital is 450 crore equity shares. So how do we determine whether something is a bulk deal or a block deal? Let's open up a calculator. So bulk deal reference is you need to have how much percentage of equity shares purchased or sold. The limit is 0.5. So 0.5 into 415 415 crores divided by 100. So you have to buy for a bulk deal in Infosys. You have to buy 2 crore 7 lakh 50,000 shares. Let's suppose you buy it at today's market price, which is 1400. So the value of your purchase is 2,905 crore rupees. So this is more than 10 crores, which is the value for block deal. So usually whenever you have a bulk deal, it ends up becoming a block deal, but not all block deals tend to be bulk deals usually, but there could be significant overlap depending on the number of shares that you are buying and selling. So this is the trading quantity. Now for bulk deal, usually the transaction windows are quite flexible, but block deal you can only enter at specific times. These are called as the block deal windows. So you have a morning block deal window between 8:45 and 9, and you have an afternoon block deal window from 2:05 to 2:20. So if you want to buy any company shares exceeding 10 crore rupees, then you will have to buy them only during this slot. And you can only place an order at a price which is plus or minus 1% of the reference price. So our reference price is how much? 1,400. So 1% of this is 14 rupees. So you can place an order only at 1,414 at the top end and 1,386 at the bottom, because the reference value is 1,400, depending on the morning price or the afternoon price. So afternoon reference price will be taken at 2 o'clock. Morning reference price will be taken at the previous day's closing price. So that will be the price at which bulk or block deals usually happen, and this is the main reason, especially block deals are the main reason why yesterday's last traded price will be different from the opening price. If you notice, can you see what is the previous closure price? It is 1404.90 and the opening price is 1405.10. So before the market opened, somebody would have placed a block deal for purchasing or selling Infosys. What do you think would have happened here? Would it be a purchase or would it be a sale from 8:45 to 9?
Somebody would have bought it.
Yes, so there would have been additional demand for these securities. Somebody would have placed a block deal. Could be multiple people also. So it led to a price increase of about 1 rupee, depending on the price that they would have placed the block deal at. So that is how bulk and block deals usually work. So you could get a problem on this. So whenever you get a problem, remember the key points for bulk as well as block deals. Bulk deal is any purchase or sale of more than 10 crore rupees net. There are only two timings, 8:45 to 9 a.m. and there is a second one, 20:05 to 2 p.m. Reference timing is 2 p.m. for the afternoon lot. Reference timing is the previous day's closing price. The previous close is the reference for this. And depending on whatever price the company shares that you're trying to buy or sell is, you cannot go beyond plus or minus 1% from the price range of that particular company. That is a bulk deal. So value, timing, reference, and price. These are the 14 you need to remember for bulk deals. Sorry, I kind of reverse this. This is the block deal problem. Bulk deal, on the other hand, is any transaction which exceeds 0.5% of the total equity shares. So it only refers to value, and there is no specific timing or reference range or price as such. Bulk deals can be at any particular price based on the market, and bulk orders will always be visible to everybody. Block orders will not be visible to everybody because these are hidden orders in the market when the market is at a particular time slot. Now, based on these transactions, there could be multiple securities that are going to be traded on BSE and NSE. So, BSE and NSE trades in stocks, bonds, treasury bills, other forms of investments, equity shares, debentures, etc. So, collectively, when BSE curates the best 30 companies and their equity shares are taken as reference, as an economic indicator as well as an indicator of the performance of the stock market. The stock market indicator here is going to be the Sensex, which is the name of the index, and for NSE is Nifty. BSE takes 30 securities for reference, NSE takes 50 securities for reference usually. And BSE uses a different free float factor and ratio and proportion which keeps changing from time to time, as a result of which you will notice BSE index, which is Sensex, usually gets traded at around the 60,000 number these days, and Nifty is 1/3 of that approximately. Even though Nifty has more securities and BSE has only 30 securities in its index, it is still considered to be having a slightly higher value because of the factors that it takes to multiply the prices of these securities. For NSE, the Sensex and Nifty, for NSE it is Nifty, right? So it is managed by a company called India Index Services and Products Limited. BSE manages its own index usually. And there are multiple indexes like this, but the most important one is the BSE Sensex and the NSE Nifty. So, and Nifty also has the Nifty 50, the Nifty Next 50, which is the company that is expected to be giving good returns in the future. Nifty Top 100, Nifty Top 200, Nifty Top 500, based on market capitalization, that is total equity shares multiplied by the market price of every company. That gives you market capitalization. Based on market capitalization, you can have small, mid, and large cap entities. So for them, they have separate indexes. If you're an investor, obviously you have to make sure that you take into account the different factors and market risks that are available. I want you to go through this particular slide once. This page is very important from your textbook's perspective also. This tells you what are the different types of risks in the market, so have a look. Can you tell me which risk is controllable and which risk is uncontrollable by a company? Is systematic risk controllable or is unsystematic risk controllable?
Unsystematic.
Unsystematic risk is controllable because it is related to a particular company or its industry. So company, if it continues to perform well, hire good employees and focus on its performance, it can to some extent control its unsystematic risk. But market risk or systematic risk, on the other hand, not very controllable because of them being related to the economy and the overall market. So economy doesn't do well. Your company also, however well it performs, would not do well in the stock market. But it's not because the company is not doing well, it's because the economy is not doing well that the company is not performing. It's not under the control of the company to control these risks. So systematic risks are uncontrollable. Unsystematic risks are actually controlled. You also have inflation risk, especially in a country like India, where purchasing power of consumers continues to reduce day by day. The day-to-day use commodities and their prices are increasing. As we speak, we would have just seen the prices of essential commodities and vegetables, including tomato increase. So such risk is considered to be the inflation risk, irrespective of how well a company performs. It has to beat the country's inflation rate in order to give good returns for its investor. So whatever returns you are making, let's say your return on investment is 13%, and let's say the inflation of your company is 6%. Your net inflation adjusted returns is only 7%. So inflation is a big risk, which is also called as a purchasing power risk for the investor. Then you have liquidity risk. When some investments cannot be bought or sold quickly, if you don't invest in equity shares, and let's say you invest in tax saving funds, ELSS funds, which are a type of mutual fund which are locked in for 3 years. These mutual funds cannot be sold for up to 3 years' time, so you're stuck with this investment for up to 3 years. So there is very less liquidity. So when there is very less liquidity, then the risk of liquidity will be the lesser the liquidity, the more the liquidity, the risk. Then you have business risk, which is also a very related to the business of the company. Let's say you invest in Tata Motors and then you take the same money and invest in Infosys. They run two different types of businesses in general, and if you notice, the businesses that you will have by investing your money in Infosys will be quite different because their operations are different. They operate in different markets compared to Tata Motors, which predominantly operates in India. And you also have a volatility risk, which refers to the risk in fluctuation of prices of the company. And then you have currency risk, which refers to the potential risk of loss from foreign exchange conversion. So if your economy is performing poorly continuously, it is your market risk. If your company is performing poorly, then it is unsystematic risk. If the inflation is increasing in your country, then it creates inflation risk. If the money that you have invested in a particular type of security is not easily sellable, then it creates liquidity risk. If the company in which you have invested has multi-country operations, then you have additional businesses. If your company's price usually fluctuates a lot, then you have volatility risk to deal with. And then if the country's importers are more than its exporters and the importers are consistently increasing compared to the exporter, then you would have what is called as a currency risk, because you need to pay these importers in foreign currency, and the country usually has a limited amount of foreign currency. Once you have analyzed these three risks, you can be ready to invest in the securities market, which consists of three major accounting requirements for you. You need to create bank account, you need trading account, plus you need to have a demat. You usually get a trading and demat account together. A bank account needs to be connected to this particular trading and demat. You should be KYC compliant and make sure that you have complied with the requirements of Prevention of Money Laundering Act. You have given your voter ID, Aadhaar card, PAN card, or any other registered documentation for ID and address proof. If you have submitted all of this, you will get a KIN, which is KYC identification number, and then you will get an SMS. Then you can start operating your account. Once you start investing, your demat account will fluctuate with number of securities incoming and outgoing. This incoming and outgoing of securities is managed in the stock exchange by a clearing corporation. They take care of settlement and clearing of securities, which means payment reaches the people who deserve it, who are the sellers, and security is delivered to the demat account of the people who are buying the security, who are buyers. So sellers and buyers are ensured to have their respective securities given to them on time. This is handled by a clearing corporation usually, and they usually operate all the settlement of transactions inside a stock exchange. India has multiple clearing corporations which assist both BSE and MSE in processing of the crores of transactions that usually occur on a daily basis. You have IFSC Clearing Corporation Limited, you have National Commodity Clearing Corporation Limited, you have Indian Clearing Corporation Limited, you have NSDL's National Securities Clearing Corporation Limited, and like that you have three more. Since you are ready to invest in the market, SEBI needs to ensure that your money is safe, and the objective of SEBI, if you remember, is protection of investors' interest and protection and development along with the regulation of the securities market. This is the objective. In such cases, SEBI has introduced a few mechanisms which are called as surveillance mechanisms. When we talk about these mechanisms, there are two types. One is preventive surveillance, and the other is post-trade surveillance. Preventive surveillance is to prevent unnecessary price fluctuations. Post-trade fluctuations, the surveillance is to ensure that you receive the delivery and alerts on time. So this focuses more on delivery, payment, and settlement of transactions, whereas preventive surveillance focuses more on minimizing the price fluctuations. There are multiple preventive surveillance mechanisms on the stock exchange. First is your circuit filters, which stops at 10, 15, and 20% based on the previous day's closing price. The company's price will never be allowed to exceed this. Then you have the trade execution range. Only in a particular reference range can trades be executed. For example, for lock deals, you have the plus or minus 1% rule. Similarly, for different company securities, they have different trade executions. You also have the maximum order value limit per order that you can place, depending on how much money you have in your bank account. And apart from this, you have what is called a skill switch, which is a facility given to you by your demat account facility provider and the broker. So if you want to cancel all the orders for the entire day, suppose you just realize that, let's say your friend met with an accident and you need to arrange some money for him, and you have invested some money in trades today, and you have placed an order to purchase a few securities which are still pending in the market. So if you want to cancel all the pending orders with one button, that button is called as your skill switch button. You have something called as the risk reduction mode, which allows you to only place order within a particular price range. You can fix this when you open your demat account. Then you have other settlement mechanisms and other measures, but these are the top preventive surveillance measures in general. So till now, you have closure and corporate actions related to important dates, which is book closure and the record date. Then we have deals, which are also two types. What are the two types of deals?
Block and bulk.
Block and bulk deals, which has a particular time slot. Block has two time slots, 8:45 to 9, and what is the other slot?
2:05 to 2:20.
2:05 to 2:20. What is the price at which you can place orders? Plus or minus 1% of the reference range.
Please close.
And what is the value of the overall transactions?
10 crore.
10 crores. Or what is a bulk deal on the other hand? Any transaction in excess of 0.5% of the outstanding equity shares of the company. That's your bulk and block deals. Book closure and record date. Which of these is only valid for a single day? Which one? Let's engage. The chapter is about to close. Which of these two is only valid for a single day? Book closure or record date?
Record date.
As the name suggests, it is the record date, which is for a single day. How many days can book closure occur? At a stretch,
Extend up to 30 days at a time.
30 days at a time, and a total of how many days in a year?
45 days.
45 days in a year. Then you saw surveillance. Surveillance is of two types. What are they?
Preventive surveillance and post-trade surveillance.
Preventive and post-trade surveillance. Preventive surveillance is done before. Preventive surveillance is done for what purpose? What is the main aim of preventive surveillance?
Prevent unnecessary price fluctuation.
To minimize price fluctuations. And obviously the main goal is protection of investors' interest. Why is post-trade surveillance done? To ensure
Delivery and payment service.
settlement. And settlement has two aspects: payment and delivery. Who does the delivery? Buyer or seller? It's always the seller. And who does the payment? It's always the buyer. Making sure the seller receives the money on time and making sure the buyer receives the security on time is what is the main focus of post-trade settlement mechanisms. There you have end-of-day alerts, pattern recognition alerts, as well as transaction alerts. Three types of alerts are there for post-trade surveillance, which is mainly an alert-based system. So post-trade, transaction, and end. These are your three alerts along with your pattern recognition alert, which is part of your daily alerts. Now, we already have seen multiple types of risks also in addition to this. You have systematic and unsystematic risk, which is controllable. Unsystematic is controllable. Systematic is left hand. Systematic risk is also called as risk. Who usually does the settlement? What are those entities called as? Clearing corporations. There are about 7 or 8 in India. Apart from this, you also have inflation risk, which is called as purchasing power risk. What other risks are there? Which are relevant?
Liquidity risk.
Liquidity risk, business risk, and you also have a few more. What are they? Come again?
Currency risk.
And all these risks have ended up creating the surveillance mechanism. As the surveillance mechanism keeps an eye, you still need to purchase and sell these securities. If you want to do it in bulk or block, those are your deals. And we cannot do, even if we do bulk and block deals, it will not be recorded when the company does book closure and record date, because it closes two important books on those days, which are the one is register of members, another is share transfer. So usually you will see whenever company is about to declare a dividend or whenever company is about to declare its quarterly financial statements, it will close its books for a few days. Before those closure, there will generally be good anticipation in a price rise for that particular company, because usually it will be good. The people will end up buying the shares of such companies before this book closure date, so that they get into the register of members book and they end up receiving the dividend or bonus or whatever is required as such. Now, we have created an account, we have seen the risks, we have seen the surveillance mechanism, seen the block and bulk deal, we have seen how the stock market works, we have seen the different segments and grades of the stock market. But every market is affected sometimes externally by some policy measures. So first policy which affects our stock exchange is called as the Fed policy. Fed policy refers to the United States Federal Reserve rate, which is controlled by the Central Bank of the United States. Every country's central bank usually controls its supply of money, and the United States is no exception. So any United States company which wants to invest in India also needs to pay attention to this Fed Reserve rate, and also Indian investors need to pay attention to this, because this will create what type of risk for Indian investors? This will create a currency risk scenario for Indian investors usually. So now let's see an example here. If Fed rates are hiked, the value of dollar will usually goes, which means Fed fund rate is the rate at which the American banks will be able to lend money to companies in United States. So observe this: if United States increases the Fed rate, is lending going to become easier or tougher in United States? Companies will not be able to borrow. So borrowing gets tougher. And if borrowing gets tougher, they don't have a lot of savings anyways in the US. And if their savings is going to reduce, and with the amount of money they have is going to reduce over a period of time, and they will invest lesser and lesser. In which country? India. So investment by US companies in India is gonna go down. If Fed reserve rate goes up, so you can say Fed rate is inversely proportional to the foreign direct investment rate in India. The rate at which FDI comes in, that also is going to be inversely proportional. So that is the impact of the Fed rate. So that is one policy that is going to affect the investment rate. Then you have the second factor, which is bond market pressure. US government also issues bonds like Indian government. So if Fed rate increases, bond yield will also increase. Yield is calculated as your coupon payment plus or minus the premium at which the bond is going divided by the number of years to maturity of that particular bond divided by its average price. This is the yield formula. You won't get questions on this usually, but the bonds are valued like this with respect to their yield. So if Fed rate goes, bond yield also goes. So it is directly proportional. And if bond rate goes up, it puts pressure on Indian government bonds to also increase its interest rate. Because then Indian investors, rather than investing in Indian bonds, they will take their money and go and buy American bonds because they are getting better returns in America, right? So not only is federal rate increase is going to decrease the FDI potential in India, it is also going to take Indian money outside India. So to summarize, the impact of federal reserve rate, which is the Fed rate. Fed rate increases, FDI decreases, and ODI increases. ODI is overseas direct investment, and FDI is foreign direct investment. This creates inflow for India, and this is outflow for India. In both ways, it is bad for our. At the same time, India also has RBI, which has two rates majorly, repo rate and reverse repo rate. So repo rate is the rate it is. Anybody has any idea about repo rate usually? Have you heard this before? Can you tell me what is the difference between repo and the reverse repo?
For rate is the rate at which the highway will lead to bonds. Reverse repo
Currently,
rate
the
is
repo rate and reverse repo will be the borrowing rate, obviously. Currently, repo rate is around 6.5 in India, and reverse repo is at around 3. So what happens is RBI is bankers bank. We have studied in economics before. RBI will both lend money and borrow. RBI's lending rate is the repo rate. RBI's borrowing rate is the reverse repo rate. The repo rate obviously will be higher than the reverse repo rate usually. RBI is not going to pay interest if it borrows money from a bank for any urgent requirement. So the rate is usually lesser, but RBI lends at about 6.3%. And the RBI's policies is also going to affect how much the investors have left with them, because supply of money is directly related to the government's economic policy and the RBI's. So if RBI keeps increasing the repo rate keeps going, can Indian banks borrow money? Is it going to become easier or is it going to become tougher if the repo rates keep going up? So tougher to borrow. And if it is tougher to borrow, they will be more careful in investing their money in the stock markets, which is going to even reduce our local investments. So that is the impact of repo rate, and it's going to slow down the economy. If repo rate comes down, then obviously economic growth can eventually pick up. Also, RBI's policies are going to affect exchange rate stability. It is going to affect inflation and deflation as well as price stability, along with the balance of payments, which refers to the overall deficit or surplus that India has after paying for its inputs. Usually, India goes in deficit because we are a strong importing country and we are still developing. So, equilibrium is very far away, probably about 10-15 years at least away from the current strong imports that we are making. That is why you would notice government is cracking down on imports aggressively. Recently, they would have banned the import of laptops, right? Gaming devices and gaming equipment are banned basically. So this is basically to ensure that we import less and manufacture locally. Then we have something called as the bank rate. Bank rate refers to the rate at which RBI will discount the bills for commercial. So let's say you have a bill of exchange which is due in 3 months. You don't want to wait. The amount due is 10,000. You go to ICICI Bank and they are ready to give you 9,000 rupees on this bill. This is called bill discounting. ICICI Bank will take this bill to Reserve Bank of India and RBI will probably give only 8,000 for this. So the rate at which RBI is going to discount these bills from these commercial banks is called as the bank rate. We also have the cash reserve and statutory liquidity ratio, which is going to affect the credit policy. So all in all, if you look at credit policy of India, we have FEC policy, which is going to affect stock market. Then we have credit policy, which is also affecting the stock market. FEC policy has mainly Fed rate, and there are some other aspects which I didn't remove from your syllabus, but Fed rate is very important. Credit policy is governed by the repo, the reverse repo, bank rate, SLR, CRR, margin standing facility, and some other factors. Because you need MSF also. So there are a few other factors that we need to this. Repo and reverse repo, lending rate and borrowing rate for RBI. Bank rate is the bill discounting rate of RBI. SLR refers to those rates at which every commercial bank in India should maintain a minimum amount of liquid assets with itself. So SLR banks will keep it with itself, and the cash reserve ratio will be deposited with RBI. That's the difference. CRR you keep with RBI. SLR you keep with yourself. Both are to ensure liquidity in times of emergency. And reverse repo we have already seen. So factors that are going to affect the investment in stock markets is the Fed policy, the credit policy, and the third is inflation. Under inflation, we have the wholesale price index and the consumer price index mainly. Let's see whether they have removed the others. Wholesale price index and consumer price indexes refers to the major indexes for retail and wholesale consumers. It's a key measure of inflation. So if the wholesale and retail price index keeps going up, wholesale price index has 676 items with a base year of 2004-5, and consumer price index has only those items that are usually used by retail consumers. So there are 448 in rural and 460 items in urban CPI basket. CPI is also divided into 6 main groups, and if wholesale and consumer price index keep going up, inflation will go up, and if inflation goes up, people will have lesser and lesser savings. When people have less savings and less money, the investments in the capital market is also going to. That is the impact of these three important policies which affect the investors and investment in the securities. Fed rate goes up, what's going to happen? Investments going to come down or go up? What do you feel? Investments is going to come down in our local securities market. FDI is also going to come down and ODI is going to increase. People are going to start investing outside. There are three components of this Fed rate: the bond rate, the actual Fed rate, and the Indian repo, which is again part of the current rate. So that pretty much concludes your chapter 2. On Thursday, we can close chapter 3 probably. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Any doubts? Any questions? No? Once again, the policies, inflation indexes, credit policy of India, which is RBI, Fed policy of United States Federal Reserve, which affects investment in our securities. We also saw book closure and record date, bulk and block deals, preventive and post-trade surveillance, different types of risk also, and all these factors are going to affect how investors are investing in securities. So that concludes the second chapter.